funds to supply enough housing for all the people that live in housing. So it's a complicated issue, and you have to have involvement of the federal government because they pay most of the money.
But we also need more money from the city, from the state as well.
Well, that's always an argument. You go, whatever, say, oh, we give more than we get back, right?
But it has to be a watchdog, because there's been mismanagement of billions of dollars of NYCHA
Exactly.
for decades, corruption, you know, that over 50 employees got indicted past year or so. So there has to be oversight, there has to be complete overhaul.
The federal government does not want to be in the business of providing public housing, especially the Trump administration. Now they haven't done anything yet to cut the funds, but we know that's coming down.
Well, I saw the projections that they're going to cut federal funding by 40% for.
I think what they're going to do is what they want to do with the Department of Education. They're going to give the money to the states, and then it's up to them to allocate for public housing. And we do have public housing. That's not going to work well. The federal government is on the hook for the public housing. So this is where you really got to sit down with people in the Trump administration and figure it out. I don't think, having been in these projects, that many of them aren't going to be able to continue to operate safely for the residents in 20 years from now. We're going to have to think of bringing them down and building new housing. Very, very expensive. So I wish I could give you a concrete answer, but until I see exactly where all the monies have gone, when you're made them, you get spreadsheet, you talk to the federal government. I know the Trump administration is hostile towards public housing. How do we get rid of the patronage, all the kickbacks and corruption that have existed? Do we save some units? We eliminate others? Very tough decision. Nobody living in public housing is going to be happy. They're not. And also, we have a number of people who can, but not pay, because that's how they got into public housing. They agreed to pay a particular percentage of their income. And then when COVID and the lockdown came, almost said, you don't have to pay rent to everybody. We even have people who are not paying rent to private landlords who were there like 5, 6, 7 years as squatters. We have that in public housing. There's a lot of people who could pay rent and not paying rent. So to be honest with you, I know it's a massive problem. I can't give you a one-word answer to that. We don't control NYCHA other than we manage it. And we've done a horrible job. We are the worst landlord in the city of New York. So when Murillo, who you're running, has his list of the 10 worst Dracula landlords, I agree with that list. They've done some pretty horrific things. But number one on the list should be the city of New York, the way they run NYCHA. It's a horror.
It's disgraceful.
He never lists them as the number one horrible landlord. Some projects are run relatively well, some very poorly. There are some, boy, you walk in, you say this building could last for another 50, 60 years. Others, you wonder if it'll last 10 years. So it's very difficult. You have to really judge them because each of them have their own directive, staff. Some really have a lot of tenant involvement. Some have no tenant involvement. So you really got to go project by project by project.
This is Gary Lutz. He's running for City Council District 15.
But where is District 15?
The hub area.
Oh, the hub, 149th. Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, that's rough.
And he covers Belmont and Pelham Parkway.
Oh, so you go all the way up there?
Yeah. So I live in the Belmont area, Washington Avenue, 183rd. Been there about 10 years now.
Question here?
Do you cover Arthur Avenue, Belmont, that whole area?
Just about.
Well, that is quite a different area from 149th and 3rd up to there. So in 149th and 3rd, it's deteriorated.
Oh, it's horrible.
Every conceivable rehab facility is there.
They tried to protest against it too.
They want to put in the legal injection centers.
That's crazy.
They put up a new building with a YMCA.
Excuse me?
They put up a new building with a YMCA that nobody in the area can afford to go to.
Right. Right.
And that's detrimental. That's like, here I was a little happy thinking, okay, here's a program that we can get some of these kids off the street and nobody can afford it. And you, right down the street, you got the rec center in St. Mary's Park that's been closed for the better part of 2 to 3 years for repairs. It don't look like it's opening up anytime soon, you know, but you know, that's part of the reason why I'm running for city councils. Where are these kids going? We complain about crime on the streets and we complain of all these kids on scooters and all these kids doing this but we don't have nowhere for them to go. You know, half of their parents are working, and what are we gonna do with them? Just leave them out in the streets of their own vices, and then if they're out in the streets, acting their age, you know, because I don't even want to say they're really being bad. They're just being teenagers or being little kids, the ones that are not in gangs. Then you know we're always quick to call the cops on them, and not the ones actually doing the crimes.
Right.
So you know, I feel we need to start, you know, finding out what's going on in some of these community centers that, you know, closing down community centers left and right. You have a disengagement between the youth and the police. I feel that's because there's a lot less TAL programs running around like there used to be. There's a lot less. I remember police used to take us upstate on like different trips, you know, every now and then. You know, you don't have that, you know, police in the community. We're not teaching our younger kids to be police officers. You know, we're not, don't be a cop. It's the bad thing to do because all they see is on social media or what media itself shows. You know, normally it's black against white when it comes to cops and the public. You know, and this is what we're teaching our kids. We're not teaching them, hey, you can become a cop and you can put a stop if you come in, go into the police force, put a stop to what you're seeing. But nobody's teaching our kids that. And a lot of that comes from these after school programs and being involved in the community. And you know, after school programs now, if there is one, it's closing at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Now what happens to the parents? They gotta work the 9 to 5 in Manhattan. Now they gotta jump on the train and pray that they make it back in time before they get a late fee. So that's part of the reason why I'm running, and I see it a lot in my best friend's neighborhood, which is Gary's district down in 149th and 3rd Ave. Is you got kids just standing at a bus stop for hours on end just because they can't go home because nobody's home, and then there's no after school program. You know, I think I would love to work with you when you
I'll give you
become.
a remedy to that. I'm the oldest candidate running for mayor, 71. Yeah. And most streetwise.
Yeah.
They
That
may
too.
know Wall Street, I know the street. So when I went to public school, 3 o'clock, they had after school center till 5. Then you went home. And if you wanted to come back, they had night center, which was open until 9.
Right.
Now, it wasn't just sports, because everybody focuses on sports. Most kids are not into sports. Most kids are into cultural things. So they used to allow you to take instruments home if you were a member of the band or the orchestra. Don't do that anymore. You had
Took music
chorus,
right out of school.
you had play, you had music. Now you have artificial intelligence that young people are interested in, doing videos, podcasts. So there are any number of different cultural kinds of things that will attract them to come to school, and then also to be able to do it after school center, evening center.
Right.
The other thing, since these schools are there, so you mentioned St. Mary's Park, Morris High School is right there. What happens to Morris High School once it closes at about 3 o'clock? Empty. At night, it used to give English language classes to immigrants. Because if you're an immigrant, you're going to be here.
So the potential.
Whether some people think you shouldn't or whatever, most are still gonna be here. Trump is not deporting them. So if we don't make them English language sufficient, they are going to language. You can't use a computer. You can't get a job. If you don't know English, it's very, very difficult. So they used to train immigrants late at night in school in English.
Mhm.
It helped generation. And they stopped doing it. They said it was too costly. Well, you want to spend money on putting a kid in a juvie center, which is right down the block, Horizons there, 149th and 3rd, or you want to spend money in keeping schools open after school and giving kids opportunity. They wouldn't have vocational training to be taught then. You got a number of retirees who might come in, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, health home care aides, of which that is a growing need because as we age, look, I'm 71. I may need one, so who knows? Rather than put them in a long-term nursing home care unit, most of the elderly want to stay in their own home, own apartment. But they need assistance.
Yes.
And you need trained professional people who understand the psychology of the elderly, what their needs are, more than just changing a bedpan and taking them for a walk. But that requires teaching and training. These schools, weekends they're closed, nights they're closed. We're still having to heat the building so the pipes don't burst. Lights are on. Why don't we utilize the building? Will it cost us more? Of course it will. But it is a benefit to the community because every community has either an elementary school or junior high school.
I'll be honest, I was in San Bernardino's High School, right on 143rd and Southern Boulevard. And it was a trade school.
That's conference, 149 and stuff. Yeah.
The technology, desktop publishing, or computer design. Graduated, went off to college, came back home 15 years later, 4 different high schools.
Yep.
Then I come to find out that that wasn't the only trade school that they stopped doing trades in.
Yep.
So now we put these kids in a position, but they're not, they're teaching for the test, they're not even teaching to give them knowledge. They're just teaching them to pass.
Right.
They're coming out, no trade, and then some of these kids, if you sit them down and you actually talk to them, you wonder how they made it out of high school.
They don't know nothing.
I'm sorry, because of time constraint, if we can move. Terry, you have a question?
I know this may be a general question. Is there any plans like to curb inflation?
Well, the cost of living. There's things that you can do as mayor in city government. All these speed traps, speed cameras, gotta go. All it is to generate revenue. In some neighborhoods, it's like every 5 feet, it's a speed camera. It's like, why?
But some of the cameras-
Meantime, you got the guys on the mopeds and the e-bikes going up and down, breaking every rule and regulation, no license, no registration, no insurance. But if you got a car or a van or a pickup truck, you're getting clipped.
Yeah.
And they got red light cameras. Then up until recently, they wanted to fine you $300 if you didn't compost. So now you had to go into your garbage can and pull out the compost. Most people don't know what composting is. Then you have to buy a garbage can from the city if you have a private home. Why do you have to buy a garbage can from the city? And they're only made in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And who's getting the kickback on this contract? So I can't go to a mom and pop hardware store or Home Depot and buy it 1/3 cheaper. Who's making all this money?
Yeah.
Cutting. And that drives the cost of living down. Doesn't answer all the problems. The cost of living, predominant cost of living is the skyrocketing amount of rent that people have to pay. And the fact that if they're paying for their own electricity, skyrocketing, sewage, water, skyrocketing, depending on what their agreement is with their landlord, their costs are up. The landlord costs are up. Everybody's costs are up. The landlord passes it on to the tenant. The tenant has nobody to pass it on to other than to get another job. or to spend more of their money, more than 50% on rent. If you're spending more than 50% of your income on rent, you're in trouble. Because then all your other expenses that you accrue, you'll never be able to afford them. And you'll never have any money for leisure time. All you'll be doing is to work, to eat, and to go home and sleep and wake up to go work and eat and go home to sleep. And that's it.
That's most of the country.
Yeah.
Ladies, do you have questions?
You got no question?
So, look, I don't have a question. If Rooster can tell you about the event today, what we did here, we've done in the lithium protest. I can replicate it, and I can replicate it across for you. I can do the work, I can get the manpower. That's not a problem. I just need support and get the party leaders to back off and let me do the work, so that we can get the individual grassroots candidates get that opportunity. But I do believe if we can get these areas where don't relatively see the speaking forums, getting to see the candidates that are out there.
Right.
I believe it can increase your numbers. It
So
may
now, out of the, just a question, Gonzo. Out of the flyer you put out, the last flyer, how many of those on the flyer actually attended?
It was two that had
And so you would like to get them more engaged?
Yes.
And when you say the leaders are standing in your way, in what way are they?
So like, let's say today we had at least 2 or 3 from the borough come in. Obviously, they're leader, party leaders. They're going into the boroughs and doing it not something they're accustomed to seeing, because then it's saying, "Oh, you're saying I don't do my job," or they'll have an excuse of why it's not being done. So I don't want to impede or overstep, but I took the position because my goal was to do that. I would like to do it with more open arm than having to do it without the permission. That's right.
Well, you're in a good position because you're the public advocate candidate. And this is being a public advocate. So a public advocate candidate is a citywide position. So you're trying to build coalition. So when you become the public advocate, you'll have outreach in all the areas of the city. So that should be your response. Now, they may be like in a turf war. For you. I get it. That's true of anything in life. But when you run into those constrictions, those impediments, call me. Because I know all these people. And I'll explain to them. I said, why would you want to slow the guy down? He's running for public advocate. He's trying to help other candidates. This is what we're supposed to be doing, helping down ballot candidates. You heard me speaking up. That's one of my primary missions, is to help all those who are down ballot. They're not used to that. Because although they do support down ballot candidates, you generally don't hear the people at the top of the ticket talking about that, because they're always talking about their own race, which are never easy, because if they're Republicans and conservatives, it's heavy lifting. So I understand why they would never focus on that before, but you're never going to be able to build coalitions. You're never going to be able to build other people who have the right, I believe, the right to run for public office. You're never going to be able to give them the opportunity if you don't help the down ballot. And you've seen yourself, a lot of people, they jump in, you get no help. I don't even know how to get a signature, what to do with a signature. They do a good job to get the signatures, and they're challenged right away. It's not by Democrats, which is, they never used to do that. Usually Republicans challenge Republicans. I never before saw Democrats challenging Republicans, because they basically dismissed Republicans. That's what they're worried about. Now they're worried because they see that there is a movement, there's momentum for the Republicans. It's not where it needs to be yet, but we're not going down as we were going for a while. We're actually now beginning to move up in terms of percentages. So they're watching this, and they're also saying, wait, we don't mind that they have a white male candidate, because that fits the narrative. And if it's a dopey white male candidate, somebody who's a real fool, that's even better. Because then we say, see, this is what the This is what the Republicans are like.
Yeah.
The moment we have seen a black or a Hispanic or a or Southeast Asian merge as a candidate, the Democrats say, we can't let that. Because we're too busy calling them racist, not concerned about poor people, inner city people. We can't let that be their face. So now they're actually using a lot of their legal talents to challenge candidates. You saw what happened with Elijah and East Flatbush. There were other candidates that we helped with challenges. Ramses, who's a great candidate in Corona, Jackson Heights. They challenged him. He ran for assembly the last time. That was the first time I ever saw Democrats challenging a Republican. I was shocked. Normally, Republicans challenging Republicans. And they came heavy. Two lawyers, two complainers. They knew their stuff. They blew us out of the water. They disqualified him. This time we made sure he was going to fall. But still, they challenged. They gave us a tough time. And then they take you to court. Most times the party doesn't have a lawyer for you, then you got to get your own lawyer. Now you're saying, wow, I'm going to pay for this. Because they know if they can't beat you, they can bankrupt.
Yep.
And so then you're not going to put your heart and soul into running for office because you think this is bankrupting. So I think what you're trying to do is what each of the counties should be doing. They either don't know how to do it, or their heart is not into it, because most of what they're about is just getting people positioned as a board of elections where they have parity, equality with the Democrats. So for every one Democrat at the board of elections, you have one Republican. That's where their power is. So they want to protect that. Everything else is secondary. Now, if you happen to win, great, they take credit for it. Hey, they didn't necessarily do anything, maybe other than give you the line. You're grateful for it. Oh, I get the line. That's great. But then, if you don't do so well, you're not around.
Yeah.
So that's what we have. We have to build people. So you're going to lose. Most people are going to lose first time, second time, third time. Very rare what Trump did in one presidency. Remember, when he won that night, he was the most shocked man in the world. He did not. You couldn't even see. You're the president.
Yeah.
Meantime, Hillary was in a fetal position at the J. Javits Convention Center for about a week. She couldn't believe she lost. Most people don't win right out of the box. And they lose a few times because it's a club. And whether they're Republicans or Democrats, they don't want anybody to get into that club. So once you earn your way into the club, even though you were the insurgent and you happen to beat the odds and you won, now they say, you don't have to fight us. We're here to protect you. You protect us. You don't encourage anybody to run against us. You don't encourage anybody to run against you. You scratch my belly, I scratch yours. So if all of a sudden, Gonzalo Duran, let's say you weren't running for public advocate, you were challenging an incumbent Democrat as a Republican conservative. The Republican may not be supporting because the Democrat has agreed. I won't encourage a Democrat. Now, you, we're all in the same fraternity and sorority. So unless you die or they take you out of chains and shackles and put you in jail, 99% of them stay in once they get it. Incumbency, they call it. So I dealt with Republicans and Democrats. I said, why aren't you helping that young man and that young woman? Yeah, I'm not going to support them against the incumbent. But the incumbent is a different party than you, right? Why would you be supporting the people in a different party? Well, they know me and I know them. We can do business. It's really not that bad.
Republican district leader that
Yeah. Make deals.
they're supporting my Democratic opponents.
Right. Not at all unusual. Not at all unusual. So that's why they don't like what you're trying to do, because if they're not helping the down ballot candidates, one immediately smells a rat. They made a deal. Nobody's going to challenge me. I'm the Republican. And I'll make sure that nobody challenges you. They have so I stay in office. You stay in office.
Well, I just got the signal, to start heading out.
Yep.
Would you guys mind taking, somebody take a picture? Would anybody like-
Been taking a bunch
You gotta
I know,
let,
but
you gotta
we're
let your
one-
crew know
We're
that
looking this way at the.
Curtis Lee will eventually show up.
Yes, this will make them jealous for.
Show off the stomping grounds.
Exactly.
You guys want to get in the picture?
The way Anthony Weiner's right.
Yeah.
That primary is coming up quick.
I know.
Even with Ray Clutch. Every time he starts, all this Anthony can come straight. And he's. What is it?
It's amazing that the wieners in space, but now he's home.
Yeah, right. Well, it's also.
Yeah.
But that. That ran against Adrian Adam. Did very well.
1, 2.
2 seconds to get that around, as I would say, if you would have waited. Guy was here. See, a lot of people don't realize I work a job too. I got independently well.
I
didn't want to jump in.
my office is right there, right next to it. I just gotta get everything out of here.
Sure. Alright, so we still, we have to set up a meeting with me, you and Peter. Focus on message. If we don't, then it's gonna seem like we're disorganized.
You do me a favor.
It's gonna be a hard enough, but you against the.
Also,